Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is your host Mariam Shabir and you are watching program Follow Up. In this program, you know that we talk about diplomatic ties with different countries, and we are very lucky to have today with us His Excellency Matsuda Kuninori, Ambassador of Japan to Pakistan. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your time with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Your Excellency, we know that COVID situation is very different in every country, and it is, of course, everywhere now.
Yes.
So, I want to start with COVID-19. That what is the situation right now in Japan, and what it is that we are missing in Pakistan to learn from Japan when it comes to COVID-19.
As you said, Mariam, every country or different countries have a different COVID situation, certainly, but there's one thing in common. And over the last 1.5 years, I'm fully convinced that very close and successful collaboration between a society and individual is a key to a successful fight against COVID-19. And in these connections, let me start with my high regards toward functions and role played by NCOC in Pakistan. Now, in comparison with how we do in Japan, I think that the NCOC in Pakistan played a very good role in building a close collaboration between the central government and the provincial government and the local government, and also among different stakeholders such as civil servants and the military and the men and women in the uniform. So I think that Pakistan should be proud of the track record of the NCOC. Now, coming back to the how we in Japan coping with the COVID-19. Now, I'm sure that Japanese people still regarded as a relatively disciplined nation. So to be frank, we pretty much rely on the individual response. In other words, wearing masks and washing hands and avoiding 3 C's. In other words, avoiding crowded places and also closed spaces and close contacts. Those are already part of the everyday life among a majority of the people. So if Japan's track record in fighting against COVID-19 is relatively successful, then I think that individuals should receive a credit for that. But having said that, local governments and central governments also playing their own role. Now, particularly in the case of the central government, vaccination is a responsibility mainly falling on the central government. So we are now in the middle of the massive vaccination campaigns throughout the countries. And we do hope that by September, our targeted rate of the 50% of the vaccinations should be achieved, hopefully. Now, local governments' responsibility is rather complicated. They are the one to take care of the everyday life and the livelihood of the people on the one hand, and they also take care of the health care of ordinary people. So in other words, local governments have to find a golden balance between the economy and health care.
That's right.
So I'm sure that local governments having a very tough job to do, but so far they are doing quite well. Like here in Pakistan, economy is gradually opening up back to the normalcy, but local governments make sure that for those people who need that testing, they are given the testing opportunities. For those who need that vaccination, they are given the vaccination opportunities. And if people unfortunately falling ill, then they are given that medical treatment. So those are more or less how we deal with situations in Japan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador, for highlighting that how important it is to follow SOPs and also highlighting the role of local governments and central government over there. So you were also talking about a bit of economy and of course how your government is trying to keep balance for that. My next question is somewhat related to economy, that how Pakistan and Japan can really collaborate for socio-economic development in Pakistan.
Now, economic collaboration, social and economic development is a main pillar. I would see that as the biggest and the most important pillar in our relations between Japan and Pakistan over the last 7 decades. Now, back in 1952, when Japan started to provide economic assistance to a friendly country, that is Pakistan, in the first stage, we are involved in building a basic socio-economic infrastructures, such as railways, dams, power stations, as well as ports. But now, with a change in the needs of the Pakistani society, we are now shifting our focus from the basic infrastructures to those areas such as education and health care, and particularly clean water and sewage systems, as well as disaster prevention and disaster management. In other words, we realize that in addition to Japan, there are so many partners which are now willing to work with Pakistan in terms of the providing and building social and economic infrastructures. So so that's the reason why we are now shifting our focus slightly to those needy areas which Pakistan regards as very important, but still lacks in progress.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for highlighting some of the area where both governments are collaborating. My next question is, you're just talking about education as well. So my next question to you is that how we can. There is different kind of education when we talk about education. One is skill-based, one is of course subject-based, and one is related to, of course, higher education. So how Japan and Pakistan can work together on these 3 areas for the betterment of both nations?
Education for any country, education is a key to success for nation buildings, but also well-being of the individual people. So, Marian, if you allow me that I briefly talk about the history of Japan.
Yeah, please.
Now, more than 150 years ago, when Japan went through the revolutionary change from the feudal samurai system to modern nation, we gave the first priority to education. So, we used out of the scarce national coffers many monies and human resources to concentrate on nationwide compulsory primary and secondary educational systems. And luckily, by the year 1900, by the time of the turn of the centuries, we practically achieved 100% school attendance rates for boys and girls in Japan in terms of the attendance of the primary schools and secondary schools. Now, based on that track record, we succeeded in building a strong economy and resilient society. But in the course of a change in the educational system from the feudal samurai age to the modern age, we relied on support from foreign countries, mainly from European countries and the United States, in terms of inviting the teachers from those countries, or introducing a curriculum, or textbooks, and many other teaching methods. So education is very important, but at the same time, not a single country can successfully deal with the daunting task of building a very successful educational systems. So with that in our mind, as I told you, we are now focusing on education as one of the 4 important priority areas where Japan is working with Pakistani government. Then, specifically speaking, what we are doing. First, we are working with the Pakistani government, both central and local governments, to build as many schools as possible. This is the first thing. And the second, we are upgrading equipment facilities for those schools, particularly for those schools which accept girls, because we consider that education for girls is very important. And by the way, my mother was a mathematics teacher when she was young, and she kept saying that teaching one girl means more than teaching one boy, because they can be mothers, they can be grandmothers, they can support families, and they can encourage the communities to give opportunity to their kids to go to school. So this is the reasons I particularly emphasize on education opportunities for girls. And also, we try to give opportunities to young Pakistani teachers to take scholarships from Japan, so that they have a chance to come to Japan to learn from Japanese teaching colleagues about the methods and the methodologies, as well as new equipment. So those are some of the areas where we are now working on.
Great. So when you were referring to teacher-to-teacher contact,
yes.
I would say,
yes.
for the learning purpose. And that takes me to the next question, that how we can really work more efficiently and more rigorously for improving people-to-people contact. We all know that due to COVID-19, the situation is different now, but still there must be some opportunities after getting vaccination in both countries, how we can collaborate and improve that contact for learning and different opportunities.
Now, in order to encourage robust people-to-people contacts, there are many ways by which we can start with. But let me start with a recognition gap. In other words, if you take ordinary people in a Tokyo street, not so many people instantly realize where Pakistan is located, or what role Pakistan plays in political, economic, and social relations with Japan. So, and I would say that the same thing can be said about ordinary Pakistan people in the street in Islamabad. Maybe they might recognize Japan associated with automobiles, but beyond that, not so many people instantly answer what Japan is, or what country is, or what culture Japan has. So recognition or perception gap is the first thing to tackle with. And here I hope that media and think tanks and the schools come forward to try to fill in gap. So this is the reasons why Embassy is now encouraging first think tank to think tank contacts, and also media to media exchanges, and school to school exchanges, starting from the universities or graduate schools down to the elementary schools, so that first people realize, there is a country named in Japan far away from Pakistan, or vice versa. There is a beautiful country, Pakistan, which is home to one of the oldest civilizations, Indus civilizations, and Gandhara Buddhist culture, and on top of that, very rich Islam civilizations. So starting from the recognitions of both countries mutually among ordinary people, this is a very foundation and beginning of robust people-to-people contact. Now, once these things can be more addressed, then the rest of the story is relatively easy, I hope. For example, there's another area where we are now working on, and that is we would like to bring Japanese tourists back to Pakistan.
Nice.
Now, unfortunately, over the last 10 years, for many reasons, security reasons, or COVID-19, or economic downfalls both in Japan and Pakistan, we didn't have enough flow of the tourists. But I think once COVID situation stabilized, it's high time for us to be engaged in tourist promotions. And for that matter, I really encouraged by the Pakistan government decision to try to present Pakistan as one of the most interesting tourist destinations, particularly religious tourism, including Buddhism. Right. So those are the areas where I'm very much interested in working together with the Pakistani government and the Pakistani society and the Pakistani stakeholders.
Thank you, Ambassador, for highlighting these very important, steps which both governments are trying to take with collaboration, of course. And I think that's where think tank like Sustainable Development Policy Institute can really chip in to promote, think tank to think tank yes. contact. And we would really interested to take it up further. And you have partially answered my next question, so I'll move on to last questions yes. now. That is there some new intervention or some good news you would like to share, which Pakistani government even or Pakistanis don't know that which steps Japanese government is going to do with Pakistan? Any upcoming or future projects which you would like to talk about with us?
Thank you very much for asking. That are very important areas where embassy is now working. And the new areas, one way or the other, are all related with Pakistan's geostrategic locations. In other words, how government Japan and the people of Japan and Japanese society regards Pakistan. Pakistan is not a independent entity cut off from the rest of the world. On the contrary, Pakistan is a part of the rich Islam regions, and Pakistan is located as a bridge between South Asia with Central Asia. And also, Pakistan, if you take a look at what I call Islamic belt, which stretches from the Morocco on North Africa to the west, to the Indonesia in the center of the South Pacific to the east. Pakistan happens to be located in the middle of these long stretched Islam belt. So those are the basis of our thinking as embassy and as government Japan, how we can leverage Pakistan's strategic locations for first, better relations between Japan and Pakistan, and second, for better socio-economic and political development in these regions. So specifically speaking, one of the areas where we are now very much working hard, and that is how we can collaborate with Pakistani government and the Pakistani businesses to create robust regional connectivity, which stretches from Pakistan through Afghanistan into Central Asian republics and beyond. And Pakistan is a country which has important ports such as Karachi, and also Pakistan has a well-established inland transportation which stretches way into the inland and landlocked countries such as Afghanistan and Central Asia. So regional connectivity and Japan-Pakistan collaborations for creating a wide range of the economic and social space is an area where we are now working. And here, many things comes in. We need more political dialogues, and we need more military-to-military collaborations. We need more relations and collaborations between security and police agencies. Because, as I told you, wide range of the regional connectivity means better border controls and safe and secure flow of people, goods, and money. So those areas cannot be tackled by a single person or institution, but which include everyone: politics, political leaders, military leaders, business leaders, leaders in academia, and many more. So with regional connectivity as a focal point of a new development and collaboration with Pakistan, Embassy would like to embark on wide range of upgrade of the relations and collaborations with all the partners in Pakistan. So, this is what we are now doing. And you'll be supplied at quite a huge project. I'm sure that it takes a lot of time, but patience and diligence, which are two key beauties of the both Pakistan and Japanese people, make our dreams reality in the final analysis. And one more thing, since you are working as a journalist, so I'd like to emphasize relations between Japan and Pakistan in the area of the journalism. Now, back in 1960s, before you were born, Mariam, Japanese NHK Broadcasting Company worked with PTB and PBC. So that's at the beginning, nascent beginning of the collaborations between the two countries in the area of the journalism. And Japanese engineers came over to Pakistan to work with the Pakistani counterparts, and we invited the Pakistani journalists and the technicians come to Tokyo to get the educations. And also we provided the facilities. So that's at the beginning. But time, flow quite fast. And many of the facilities and the equipment, both in the PTB and the PBC particular, they need upgrade. So we are now working on the specific projects of the upgrading and building new transmission systems and the new controlling systems, as well as new training programs. So journalism, as I told in the very beginning, very important to help the flow of the people and mutual understandings. So I particularly would like to emphasize that journalism is another area where we are going to do in the future, and we just started. And one more thing, it started to sound like a commercial time, but next year, the year 2022, is going to witness the 70th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between Pakistan and Japan. Nice. Now, Mariam, if you allow me, not so many Pakistani people remember, but newly independent Pakistan helped Japan in 1940s and 1950s. Now, war defeated Japan was ostracized from the international community, and we craved to come back to the international society after the World War II. And in 1951, when United Nations convened a peace conference with Japan in San Francisco, 1951, newly independent Pakistan was one of the first countries to send delegation to San Francisco and signed peace treaty with us. And the Pakistani government was kind enough to let us open trade office in Karachi even before the signing of the peace treaty in 1950. So Japanese businesses were allowed to come back to Karachi in 1950, and through Karachi, they are allowed to be involved in the business operations. And this helped Japan to redevelop war-defeated economy from the scratch, and particularly cotton. Pakistan-made cotton sailed from Karachi all the way to Japan and spread into Japanese archipelagos, and cotton helped to rebuild Japan's textile industry. So Pakistan helped first diplomatically and then economically Japan to become stronger countries. So with this as a background, I would like to highlight those historical friendship and close relations between Japan and Pakistan next year, throughout the next year, on many of the commemorative events. So personally, I'm now thinking about inviting a Pakistani cricket team to Japan or bringing Japanese cricket teams. Now, you are smiling, but believe me, we have a cricket teams in Japan too. And there are 200 cricket teams are currently registered with Japan's Cricket Council. So Pakistan better watch out. Soon Japan going to be a strong cricket country.
Nice.
And also film industry and entertainment, esports, new cultures also going to be a platform where Japanese and Pakistani young kids are involved in very much creative and interesting things. So please, stay tuned to watch the 2022 as a 70th anniversary of our great relations between great countries, Japan and Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for highlighting much in detail about the, I think, all sort of ties. I would say it's not only economic or diplomatic or not just cultural scale or business to business, but it is, in fact, from top to bottom. This is sort of connection
Yes.
which we built in early 50s. And we really looking forward to keeping that, and I would say that in much momentum in the future. And we really look forward for the celebrations in next year, which would mark 70 years of collaboration with both the governments. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much, viewers, for watching us. And I hope that Pakistani government and government of Japan would continue their relations not only regionally but people to people, media to media, academia to academia, think tank to think tank, and in all sorts of life. And of course, cricket to cricket as well, just like Mr. Ambassador mentioned. And don't worry, it's not just the cricket; it's to also all sorts of life and all walks of life. So stay tuned till next program. Till then, goodbye.